Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. My name is Eric.
You can call me by my Gruvessa name this time, which is M. Ark. There's a little apostrophe in there.
Didn't we do real town names at one point?
Yeah, but that was so long ago. Who can remember such names? They're so long.
A true Tau would.
Oh, God.
They would know their name, Mark. Are you not a Tau?
Oh.
Anyways, joining us today is...
Logan. And Corbin.
And Corbin. It was a 50-50 shot, really, whether or not I got the names.
You did just meet them 10 minutes ago.
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
just-
fine.
There's a moment where I was a little concerned.
It's actually L''Ogan.
Yeah.
Logan.
Ogan.
Corbin? No, Corbin.
Core apostrophe bit.
Yeah, that makes way more sense.
Yeah.
Welcome to Lorehammer.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome to the podcast. You guys just met Mark and
Yeah,
played a
yeah.
couple games.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they invited me over again for some reason, and then I bailed because we got lost in the mountains together. So that was nice.
That's cute.
Yeah,
Not
so
the first time.
Yeah.
I thought they might stand us up today because, can't even, but they showed up there.
We had such a good time in the mountains. I just ended up taking off all my clothes.
It's true. I remember that part.
Just the fresh air made you do that?
Yeah, it was just it's really refreshing being on the top of the mountain. You
Yeah.
know?
dick flapping.
Well, I didn't go. Okay, well, I did.
I conquer this mountain.
Waving in the wind.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about real quick is the Libre Malleus. I know I talked about it a little bit last episode. But yeah, we're going to open up the next campaign. So the concept is we're doing a Lorehammer official chapter, Space Marine chapter. And really we just want to collect one company where our listeners can buy a model, name it, and write a backstory for it, and be a part of like this Lorehammer chapter that we're building. So the first campaign that we released, I wrote a little bit of backstory here. I'm just going to read it for you. And it's called the Drax Initiative. The Drax system, in the Drax system, Imperial forces were having a hard time catching and defeating Dark Eldar raiding parties. Tactical Squad 3 and 6, Assault Squad 8, and Devastator Squad 11 of the first company were quickly formed and sent to repel the raiders. The task force was successful in catching and eliminating the threat, and were awarded with the campaign badge, Quick Strike, a yellow circle with a black lightning bolt through it. And basically I wrote that like they're the quickest to respond. They're in the first campaign, the lightning bolt at speed. Yeah, so we ended up selling like 40 guys and 4 vehicles for that, and I have a little touch more work to do as of right now, but by the time this episode is out, they'll be done. So we'll post pictures of that. They're very cool looking. They're nice.
They're nice.
They're
Bases
nice.
are great. Nameplates are on there, and
Yeah.
people can see their individual models that they
So-
purchased. And
I'm gonna maybe try and see if I can send everyone that contributed an individual pic. I gotta rummage through like hundreds of emails. So if I find you, great. If I don't, just check it out on Facebook. It's gonna be. I'm still gonna post every individual model on Facebook, on Instagram, and everything.
absolutely.
So if I don't reach out to you by email, just know there's thousands of emails in our inbox, and I couldn't be bothered.
It's tough to search sometimes. Yeah.
So we're opening up campaign 2. So campaign 2 is the defense of Graia. A distress signal from the world of Graia, a popular recruiting world for the Libre Malleus, has fallen under threat from a pack of Rakghoul marauders. The chapter is not willing to lose such a vital resource and is sending their best. 1 Terminator Squad, Tactical Squad 4 and 5, Scout and Scout Squad 12 are being gathered, and their plan is simple. Use the scouts to set up their teleporter beacons and monitor as much ground as possible. When the marauders have been spotted, the Terminators will teleport in and destroy the threat. Tactical squads will be sent to populated areas to protect the civilians. So that's your mission. So if you want to be a part of that campaign, get a hold of us on...
This is going to be released on the 15th.
So I'm opening it up on the 16th.
Yeah.
Get a hold of us through email, Instagram, Facebook, even on our Discord, however you want to do it. And then I'll send you like a link and whatever. You can follow all the steps. It's pretty straightforward. But yeah, so basically we're going to be selling 10 Terminators, 2 Land Raiders, 20 Tactical Marines, 2 Rhinos, 10 Scouts, and 2 Land Speeder Storms. So that's going to be in the second company or the second campaign. And yeah, that's kind of that. So hop on it quick. We sold out our first campaign. I think it was just over a week. It was under 10 days. So
It was very quick, yeah.
get on it quick because, yeah, those 10 Terminators are going to be gone the first day. I guarantee it. They're going to be gone.
Yeah. But then that just means if you miss that one, we'll do another campaign.
Yeah.
So
I have 5 planned
Yeah.
to collect the entire first company. So, yeah. So go check out all the Instagram, all that kind of stuff if you want to see pictures, if you want to be a part of that. And then also, if you're in the first campaign and you haven't written your backstory for your model yet, yeah, like that's awesome. I'm looking forward to getting more of those in because eventually, yeah, we'd love to kind of do like a
little book or
little
something.
book, little pamphlet or something like that with everyone's backstory and a picture of their model and all that kind of cool stuff. So, yeah. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, cool. The Libre Malleus lives
Yes.
once again. Just thanks to the gosh darn coronavirus, it just took a minute to get everything.
I literally waited like 3.5 months for bases and nameplates, and it only
Yeah.
took me like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks to paint up all those miniatures. So
Yeah,
it's like,
it could have been much faster
Ah,
for sure.
yeah.
But it's not our fault. That's all I'm trying to say.
No.
Don't blame us.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, today's episode is about the Tau.
Yes, sir.
It's about the Farsight Expedition.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you guys know everything and all there is to know about the Tau.
Being our resident Tau experts now,
Yeah, that's
you will now be taking over this episode for
that was
us.
how Mark convinced me. He's like, "Look, Eric, I know we don't like other people on the show."
Oh, yeah. Never once have we enjoyed
Yeah,
another person.
No. And he's like, "But these guys are straight up Tau experts." And I said, "Great, I don't have to do any research. I don't know anything about this, so I'm really hoping you guys pick up the slack."
We'll try.
Yeah.
So, we're going to start with our last Tau episode. We called it Tau Between Spheres. Oh, yeah, I guess I got slides I could shimmy on over.
Oh.
The Libre Malleus. We missed
What
it.
a surprise.
Okay, next
Is that,
one.
you still used Comic Sans?
I don't know, man.
Is that really what we're reduced to?
I'm not qualified for much more than just rambling on a mic.
It's funny because there's really only one font you can't use, and it's Comic Sans.
Is that? I don't know. I don't know.
That's pretty great. Anyways.
You gotta get Times New Roman for the Imperium. It's a lot crisper.
Yeah.
Ah.
There's like a gothic one too.
Yeah. Or like Trajan.
I would have accepted Wingding over Comic Sans, really. But we'll get there. Maybe by the time we reach the 5th campaign. Yeah, today though, let's talk about the Tau Between Spheres really, really quickly. So between the 2nd and 3rd spheres of expansion, there's a time gap of around 299 years by Imperial record. And then during that time, the Tau race experienced 4 major growing pains. So the first was the Imperial Retribution, which they called the Damocles Crusade.
Yeah.
The second was the ill-fated Farsight Expedition. Third was High Fleet Gorgon. And then 4th was the Great War of Confederation. And then in that episode, Tau Between Spheres, we talk about Damocles Crusade, High Fleet Gorgon, and the Great War, but we purposefully skipped over Farsight.
Farsight's such a cool guy.
Yeah, well, it's a lot to unpack in this episode, and so today we're going to learn about the Farsight Expedition, but we're not really going to do Farsight himself.
No.
That's the big thing here.
Yeah. We figured we should probably read a book about him.
Yeah. Before we do like a character dive into
It's probably a good
Yeah.
idea.
We can bullshit pretty well, but
Yeah.
you know.
So we'll talk a little bit about him, but it's mainly going to be the actions of the Farsight Expedition as a
Yeah.
whole, and then just the consequences of that entire mishap. I don't know how else to.
Yeah.
Not a good time for the Tau Empire, for sure.
So let's start off talking about the man himself, the Tau himself, Farsight. One of the greatest Tau commanders, Shas O Valora Shova Case Monttara, or Oshova, or Commander Farsight. I'm going to be saying his full name.
Every time.
Every time.
every
Every time.
time because I respect the guy.
Do you?
Put some respect on his name.
His name is known throughout the entire Tau Empire and is often used as a cautionary tale. If even that, it's also not even talked about.
Yeah.
Like-
Might even just be
Anymore,
ignored, put
yeah.
down.
Yeah.
He's a bit of an unspeakable.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like almost
Spoken in
taboo
whispers,
to
yeah.
say it
The
and to talk
Ethereals
about it.
have kind of
Stamped it out.
tried to keep it real hush-hush about him.
Yeah. But at a young age, Farsight proved himself a worthy warrior and was selected and trained by the legendary commander Purtide. So at one point, he was like this up-and-coming prominent hero of the Tau Empire. Farsight's first and greatest victories were won in the Ork War, where he had a small Tau force and were able to eliminate a huge Ork threat. This was only the start of his illustrious career.
Yeah, but that's really, I think, where he began to make a name for himself.
Yeah, that's where he actually got the name like Farsight from.
Yeah, how great he was able to outmaneuver the orcs and just plan way ahead of them. So
Yeah.
but that's when the Ethereals like propped him up.
Yeah.
as like the hero.
Of the Tau Empire.
Yeah.
So then we go into the Farsight Expedition. In the aftermath of the Damocles Crusade, the Tau Empire was left reeling with a new understanding and perspective of the Imperium of Man. In the wake of these defeats, Ethereal Unva convinced the Ethereal Supreme Unway that the
I don't know.
Unway.
that the only way to reinforce the Tau Empire of their purity of purpose in the greater good was to reclaim those planets lost to their aggressors. So the Tau they attack the Imperium, try to take a bunch of worlds. Then the Imperium come back in the Damocles Crusade, attack them, and then are defeated. And now the Tau are going back to try to retaken planets.
Yeah, I think it was like a huge blow to morale to find that they were so severely outgunned and outplayed in the Damocles Crusade. And,
Yeah.
you know, if your entire race is built around the greater good and the belief that the greater good conquers all, then to lose could probably put some strain on your
It was like a
on
war
your
of
system.
reclaiming their honor.
Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. So they decide to launch a new expedition with Commander Farsight at its head. The Ethereal Council committed heavily to this expedition, using many resources to outfit ships and create a large fleet for the Tau.
Yeah, I tried to find exactly how big the fleet was.
Yeah.
But they don't. I couldn't find that, unfortunately. But you just imagine for what the Tau can do, like if they say a large fleet, how much really is that?
3 ships!
Yeah, who knows?
30 guys.
But I have to think it must be more than what the Imperium committed in the Damocles Crusade. Because if they were like, hey, if that put us down and we need to beat them, we need something bigger than that.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that's my own logic, is that it must be more than what the Imperium did before. But anyways, so the beginnings of the expedition actually went very well, and many of the worlds previously taken by the Imperium during the Damocles Crusade were once again rejoined to the Tau Empire.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah. So
All is well.
For now.
Oh no, foreshadowing.
The victories only reinforced the Tau belief in Commander Farsight.
Yeah.
And news of the conquest was eagerly shared back in the Tau Empire. Proof that the greater good would eventually conquer everything. So in the beginning, it was kind of all like sunshine and roses for them.
Yeah, and then they had this little dark spot, and now they're back at sunshine and roses.
Yeah, exactly.
Greater good wins.
But I mean, there is a reason. So, because Farsight found that many of the Imperium's defenses were preoccupied. High fleets were they were just beginning to break into Imperial space at this point. So the Imperium's like, well, we need Space Marines to deal with Tyranids, not
Petty
Tau. Yeah. So because a lot of the defenses were pulled away from that area, they were effectively unchallenged.
Sure.
It's like, I don't want to pull away from Farsight because he is like a tactical genius.
Yeah, like he's described as like one of the best commanders in the whole galaxy. Like,
Yeah.
Pure tide, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I don't want to take away from him, but I think he was able to do this with like extraordinarily little loss is.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the like key things for him, is that he's able to get away like amazingly in this. So
Yeah.
It's the same thing with what he did against the orcs. Like when fighting the orcs, he managed to have these huge victories with minimal casualties.
Yeah, that's one thing that's always described about Farsight, is that like he actually values every Tau life under him, and he never sacrifices a Tau unit. Like,
yeah, he's also has like people underneath him, like an inner circle.
Yeah.
Even in this case, and I don't think that's normal. Like, I don't think most Tau have that advisory inner circle for commanders. I don't know. It seemed odd for him.
Yeah, like
that he has like a trusted circle around him of other people just pulled from his army.
Sure.
So, and I think that's a different thing for him, is that their loyalty seems to lie much more heavily to him than it does to the Ethereals that command him. So he runs a very different feeling in his army is what it looks like. So anyways, so he's effectively unchallenged in the beginning, until it met the largest orc fleet they'd ever encountered by the Tau Empire. And it was so large, they initially thought it was just an asteroid belt.
Oh, jeez.
So there's just so many of those.
That's nice.
What are they called?
Space
Hulks? Yeah. Just so many Space Hulks that they're just like, wow, just avoid the asteroid field. And then they realize it's an orc
shooting at us.
empire. So yeah, there's this orc empire, Alsanta is what it's called. And they found out very quickly that these orcs were also taking advantage of the lack of an Imperium presence, and they were also just raiding these Tau worlds at will, and also the Imperial worlds. So.
Yeah. Oh, those poor worlds. Just
yeah. Well, first you get the Tau in the second, and then the humans take it back in Damocles, and then these guys are coming back and they take them, and then the orcs are raiding them, and it's just
not a good time.
Generations of planetary warfare.
So I'm not like, I don't know the worlds out on this fringe of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Are any of them like not important?
No.
Are they mostly like aggro worlds and stuff like that?
Well, let's get down to the honest truth. It's Tau,
It's Tau,
so
yeah.
nothing is really important.
But for the Imperium, like, these worlds probably aren't like...
No, like, there's not, like, Fenris here.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing, there's no notable planet besides, nothing. Besides,
This is
it's
drawing
like
a
on the
blank.
very fringe there, so I feel like the Imperium doesn't really care about losing these in comparison to this new Tyranid invasion.
Yeah. And it's in an area of space called the Damocles Gulf, which is like a sparsely kind of hard to navigate area in the first place, too. Okay. So there's not really a lot going on in that area of space anyways. So, yeah.
Sorry, no, man, go ahead.
I was just wondering, is this on the side of the Tau Empire that's actually near Mandragora, the Sautek dynasty homeworld?
So it's Tau,
or is this on like the other side of it?
And then like the Sotek dynasty kind of stretches like to the northeast of it, and the Damocles Gulf is on the
like to the west side. Okay, so it's on the other side of the empire.
West.
Yeah,
it's not. I don't think it's near Mandragora at all. Yeah. Necron dynasties are crazy because they stretch the entirety of the galaxy.
Yeah, they're just everywhere.
Yeah. Everything's a tomb world, right?
Basically.
But
Mars is possibly a tomb world.
Oh, shit.
Those are fighting words. Here's a picture. Look at all these planets. Yeah, there's really nothing.
There's Tauin, Damocles Gulf to the left of it. That's like kind of to the left and up, right? The northwestern area.
Yeah.
Compared to the rest of them.
Yeah. Interesting.
I love seeing this.
What's going on here?
Have you seen the new cover for one of the core rulebooks for 9th?
No.
It's very cool. Yeah, it's supposed to be like an abstract galactic map, and it just has they describe it as the Imperial spheres of influence. So they just have like a bunch of spheres all over, and then just tendrils reaching up, and they just represent all the Xenos threats. And
cool.
Yeah, it's very black and white, and has like gold on it, and it's 10 out of 10.
And is this the like limited edition one
Yeah.
that comes in the box? Then?
I don't
The
think
one
it's,
that
it's
comes
not
in the box
box.
is
The one that
has
comes in
the
the box has a
artwork of Gilliman and Abaddon fighting.
Yeah, why?
I don't know.
Why? I just,
Why not put it like a Necron on there at least?
Yeah, I
Wait,
don't.
it's not even a Necron?
It's not
No.
even Necron. No, Abaddon is he's
Yeah.
like the
I don't see it.
captain of the Black Legion.
Mm.
Like, so he's
Yeah,
chaos.
see, I don't know much about Imperium at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
I just saw like a small little thing of the new one, and I just 10 out of 10.
Okay.
I'm here for that. Anyways, back to Tau. So this next little section, it's going to be the Farsight Expedition engaging with this Ork asteroid belt-sized empire. So instead of continuing his main directive to reclaim the world's lost to the Damocles Crusade, Farsight decided to engage and eliminate the threat of orcs before him. So they had also taken to the advantage of the lack of Imperial presence, raiding, and looting across many worlds. And this was what Farsight's doing is in direct violation of the Ethereals that had traveled with him. And it's apparently the first recorded incidence of a Tau ever disobeying an order from the Ethereal Council.
Interesting. It's almost like the Ethereals actually don't have mind control
Yeah.
ability, and it's all just indoctrination, and that like you can actually say no to an Ethereal.
I think his helmet was off.
Oh shit!
So-
Yes.
He
yes.
hadn't taken his pills that long.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what the
Yeah,
problem
of
was.
course.
He didn't take his soma that day.
Yeah. No, yeah. We all know that strong enough will can break psychic control, Mark. So
Well,
that
yeah.
doesn't hold up.
Interesting. Okay.
And Farsight he's definitely a strong-willed character.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Okay.
So he sees this Ork asteroid belt fleet, and he makes a plan to destroy it with the help of Aircast Admiral Kor O Li Mao Tang.
Ooh.
And while it was apparently a very decisive Tau victory, a large portion of the Ork army managed to escape. I mean, if it's the size of an asteroid belt, you
Yeah.
can kill 3/4, and there's still enough to ravage
And
an
it's,
entire.
it's still a large portion
Yeah.
that goes away.
Yeah. So he insisted on chasing down this like beleaguered Ork force, hoping to be rid of it. Because I mean, he's fought Orcs before, so he
Mhm.
knows how
Like, they can
terrible
just
the
come
threat
It's
is.
his kind of old enemy, and that's why he
Yeah.
diverted his crusade to fight the orcs instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely he's feeling some flashbacks to the Arkunasha, and he's like, no, you got to get rid of it. If you don't deal with the Orc threat,
They're just going to come back.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like Tusken Raiders. They'll be back and in greater numbers.
So he actually began a decades-long war against the Greenskins, and it spanned a decent number of star systems.
That's wild.
Too. So yeah, it's a pretty big thing that this turned into because there was just such a massive Orc presence. So during this chase across the Vorak belt, Farsight eventually encountered the Warchief of this empire. His name is Grog Iron Teeth.
Nice.
Classic.
Names.
Classic.
I like to think that he actually like
He's got like some kind of grill.
every time he like grows a new set of teeth, he just dips them in iron, like they just pour iron in his mouth and cover it.
Gurgles it for a bit.
Yeah, and then he can just chomp people with iron teeth.
He's like Jaws from James Bond. And metal teeth.
Oh boy, now I have to Google that.
Okay. You haven't seen him?
No.
When the Tau fleet actually engaged Iron Teeth himself, he split his own force in half and withdrew to two. You got
Sorry. Oh my god. I love it.
classic.
Okay.
So he split his own force in half, and he withdrew to two nearby planets, half to T'ar Evo and the other half to Arthas Moloch. And that's like, this is kind of the turning point for Farsight. He has to make a decision whether he wants to engage, everything, or if he wants to pull back and not split up his force,
Sure.
but instead continue on doing what he's doing. So,
Yeah.
he does what he does, and he lands on T'ar Evo. And which was a Tau world, and I think that's what really pulled him
Okay.
Sure.
there first, was just the fact that there were actually Tau people on the planet. And
Yeah.
feeling the need to defend them because he knew the Ethereals just didn't seem to care about it for some reason. So,
What sort of populace was on Arthas Moloch?
I couldn't find it. I don't know if
from older editions, older codexes,
Yeah.
I know this lore has changed a little bit, but it was described as just like a dead world.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
there's just
Maybe
nothing.
maybe that is kind of slightly changed, but
yeah. Should read the Farsight book, hey?
no, I refuse. I refuse to learn, and I
Yeah.
definitely refuse to read.
Audiobooks?
Yeah.
That's then learning though. So,
Oh, true. That's the
Yeah,
learning part of it.
yeah, I don't like either of those two.
Yeah. So he lands on T'ar Evo and he begins a ground defense of the planet. So his intention was to rally the defenders and push back the Greenskin Tide.
Yeah.
And redeem himself in the face of his Arkunasha war failures. So I had a little bit of a weird thing. So the first when I read the Arkunasha War,
Yeah.
it was a resounding victory for Farsight. And then when I was reading about the Ork Empire of Alsanta,
Yeah.
and him going with it, apparently he was like depressed over his failures, or he felt like a need to redeem himself, and it directly referenced to the Arkunasha War.
Yeah.
So I think there must have been something to happen in the Arkunasha that I just couldn't find. So either, like, one of those I think is wrong.
Yeah.
Either there was failures for him in the Arkunasha War, or he wasn't actually needing to redeem himself for anything,
Yeah.
and he just wanted to continue his fight. I have no
Or
idea.
it could be that the Arkanasha War was a victory to an extent for the Tau, but the Ethereals kind of propagandized it to make it seem much bigger than it is and make Farsight a sort of hero. Whereas,
Sure.
while he was actually there, he knows that it's not as great a victory, and he could have had
Yeah, yeah.
unnecessary
Yeah, very
losses
possible.
and
Yeah.
Yeah, like he could have had losses in his own army there.
yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, like that they kind of have, or he was kind of different where he had an inner circle-ish type thing,
Yeah.
and maybe he lost some people that
Lost some good Tau.
Yeah.
Oh no.
It's very possible. I
Yeah.
never really considered the propaganda level of it, but for sure.
So we know the Ethereals do like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is thought that one of the main reasons he pursued the. Oh, yeah, we kind of just said that. Words.
Yeah.
He quickly shown the errors of his way when Iron Teeth sent asteroids hurling down on T'ar Evo, killing millions of Tau. When the Greenskins finally landed, Farsight was so overwhelmed that he was saved only due to the actions of the aircast fleet, providing enough cover to force the Greenskins back. Farsight decided to force the Greenskins, or follow the Greenskins, and subsequently led his forces into a trap, further allowing more of his comrades to die.
Yeah, this is like kind of the beginning of a string of failures
Yeah,
for
stacking up.
Farsight.
Yeah. It's weird. Like when you read it in the codexes, like you don't hear any of the failure stuff. You only
No.
read the success.
Yeah,
But yeah.
even like in the Farsight Codex, it doesn't talk about his failures either. You only find that in the novels. So in the books, in the codexes, it only talks about how amazing of a commander he is. So
Yeah.
it's odd to read the lexicanum entries for these things and do research on it and find the failures and then reconcile that with the hero that you read in the codex.
Yeah.
Personally, I really like the hero way better than I like depressed failed Farsight.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Like the more I read about it, the more I was just like, I don't like he's not good. You
I'm
know?
like, no, he's so cool.
Yeah, I was like, this
Why?
guy's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it kind of felt this was like his turning point when, like, he must not have ever been around too much death, because this really like affected him. It's like the idea that someone would just send asteroids raining down on a planet really kind of hit him hard.
Yeah.
Well, and and like in war, he's probably not used to it, but his people that are fighting dying.
Sure.
They're going to war. They know what they're getting
Yeah,
into.
he knows.
This is
understands
just
the
an
risk.
This is
asteroid
just
that's crashing into
civilians.
civilians.
Millions
And
of
he's
them.
watching millions of his own people die.
Yeah, and what are you supposed to do against an asteroid shower
Yeah.
against your planet,
What are you
right?
gonna do?
There's not much if you
Yeah.
don't have massive batteries or defense things to take them out.
He's
So.
probably. I feel like at this point he's letting his pride of wanting to stop these orcs get in the way of his, because he was one of the best tactical Tau out there
Yeah.
Yeah.
under the other guy.
Pure Tide, yeah.
Pure Tide, thanks. But now he's just wandering into traps trying to chase orcs because
Yeah.
I think his pride's just too big at this point.
Yeah.
He's letting it kind of cloud his
Yeah.
judgment on like sound tactical plans, and he's
Yeah.
just chasing them.
You notice that too, actually. At one point in later in this thing, he's gonna kind of go through a weird change, and you see like a lot of difference in his tactics as well. So that's like a good point. I feel like he's getting introduced to war on a larger scale here, and that's kind of like the metamorphosis he's going through, is understanding that war is fought so differently than how he had previously done it. So I don't know. I also think that so at this point in on the Lexicanum, it won't tell you about how he's mad at the Ethereals, but in the Codex it will tell you that he's mad at the Ethereals right
Yeah.
now. So he's on his expedition. He's trying to fight get rid of this threat to
The largest orc fleet they've ever encountered.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the threat. Like, what's the point of reclaiming all these worlds if all of a sudden, as soon as they go back, and they're instantly destroyed by this orc empire? So he's trying to get rid of it, and he's asking for resources and more reinforcements.
Yeah.
And they deny him
Yeah.
over and over and over again, and so he's super, super frustrated.
Yeah.
And yeah, he really begins to resent the ethereal presence with him at this point. And this is really where all of his advisors, this is where I noticed like the big difference is that all of them stood with him and agreed that the Ethereals weren't treating them in the way that they should have been.
Yeah.
And that was like a weird turning point for me. It's like, oh, not only does he like kind of shirking the authority of the Ethereals, but also his trusted people are. So
Yeah.
and that it shows me that the loyalty there lies more with him than it ever did with the Ethereals. It's just different. I think I don't
Yeah.
think that's normal for Tau.
Like even the start of this, it's very different. Like you were kind of saying when we were doing our notes, like, do you think this is actually the third sphere of expansion? And it's like, well, no, it's weird. Like, so they send him on his way to go recapture a bunch of stuff. They make a huge fleet, but it's not a new expansion, showing like they don't really back him or believe in him in the first place.
Yeah.
And then they keep following up by not giving him more resources.
But
that he needs.
demanding more and more of
Yeah,
him.
yeah. Like it's a very weird, very different than the way Tau normally expand.
Yeah, it doesn't follow the second or third at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the first you can't is really hard to judge because that was like a 1,500 year
Yeah.
sphere,
Yeah,
right?
It was
But-
the kind of starting of their expansion of an
yeah,
empire.
yeah. But the second and third have there's very strong themes and like the
Even
entire
the fourth and the fifth and the sixth, like it's very clear. Like the Ethereals come out, make some grand gesture, like we're going on this new sphere of expansion. Like, but this one, yeah, it just seemed like go do this. Like it was very unceremonial.
Yeah,
from
they
the beginning.
put all their faith in Farsight, and they were like, "You're expected to work miracles now,
Yeah.
and we're not giving you any tools to do it with."
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I always thought maybe like if this had gone differently, would they have made this their third sphere? And
I truly think so.
like if it was more of a success, and he didn't go off and chase the orcs and
Yeah,
etc.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe they
Maybe
would've-
maybe it would have been.
Yeah,
Or would he have even created his own enclaves if he was getting the support that he was requesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna get into it later, definitely. But if they had sent reinforcements, they would have sent Ethereals with them.
Yeah.
And then the chances of him being without an ethereal presence would have been way less, and there would have been a less chance for him to have his moment of rebellion or whatever. So I think it definitely
Rebellion.
it would have changed
How dare you.
if the Tau Empire had been willing to
Support
commit
him.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely in that field, but yeah. It's tough because I haven't
Because the
read
greater good
Farsight
never.
book.
Not because the greater good's done nothing wrong ever.
Right.
Never once.
That's what's tough
Never.
about it.
So
The race that shall not be named.
Goddamn Patroons!
that was an accident.
So,
You sound like an ethereal.
a grave accident. A terrible
We
accident.
mourn for them.
We erected a statue for the Patroons.
But
Nice
their world
planet,
is
though.
great.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay
10
here.
out of 10. Paradise World.
Siege of the Enclaves.
Well, hold on.
oh,
We
there's
didn't.
more?
We didn't finish T'ar Evo.
Oh.
Yet. So he is saved by the air cast. They provide enough cover for him to kind of regroup on the planet after this asteroid storm that killed millions. And then he fell into the greenskin trap, killed more, and he's just devastated blow after blow to his morale and to his troops' morale too. Like, no support from the Tau Empire. They're on their own, but also like death on an unprecedented scale for them. So at this point, he recognizes that he's in a weird headspace, and he takes a backseat in commanding the rest of the battles on T'ar Evo. Like, he doesn't lead it anymore. He's just an advisor. He's not making any of the big decisions. I think the Ethereals are stepping up at this point, and kind of riding most of it. So eventually they do cleanse the planet of the Ork threat, but Iron Teeth himself does escape. But yeah, they save T'ar Evo, but it's...
not a good victory.
Yeah, Farsight
It's a very
is...
Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah. Farsight is not doing that great at the end of this one. So now we'll go to the Siege of the Enclaves.
The victory. Oh, here we go. The victory
Yes.
didn't last long.
The
as
victory of
Iron Tooth
T'ar
soon-
Evo, yeah.
soon began to assault newly reclaimed worlds of the expedition. Unable to handle his continuous failures, Farsight entered his battlesuit and disappeared to the bottom of the ocean, meditating in solitude for several months.
I really dislike this. It just
Yeah,
sounds
it's-
like a depressed emo kid. It doesn't sound like someone who studied with Pure Tide.
yeah.
And is like the hero that all the other Tau seem to believe he is. Even without all the propaganda, it just doesn't sound like something he would do.
Yeah.
It does sort of seem like he's just kind of running away to
Yeah.
go pout for a while.
Yeah. It's one of the greatest Tau heroes. Yeah, it's odd. Yeah, we got to read the book and actually figure
I
out.
think, yeah, I'll understand a little more of his actual reasoning in his mind. I still don't know if I'm gonna agree.
I don't
I
think
just
I
don't.
will.
I don't agree with the action himself.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just weird for him to abandon these own. Like, he was mad at the Tau Empire for abandoning him.
Yeah.
And then he just went and did the exact same thing during one of the craziest fighting that the Tau Empire has ever seen.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just, maybe it's good in the book.
It's very out of character for what's been established
Yeah.
of kind of who he is.
Yeah, like, because he's been around since the Tau first came out in, like, 3rd edition. And, like, we just bought a bunch of codexes, and I was reading it in there, and, like, yeah, like, it's only good things said about him. Like, none of
Yeah.
this stuff. Like, he's the best. And, yeah, it's just... I don't know when his Crisis of Faith book came out and stuff. I think that's where it's in here, but yeah, it's just kind of weird. So when he emerged, the expedition was beset on all sides by a cunning war boss, Grog. Farsight began to change his style of tactics used. Instead of meeting his foe head-on, he used the environment to his advantage, creating massive flame traps and firestorms, setting off seismic charges to create earthquakes and tsunamis, and creating huge landslides to overwhelm the Ork forces.
Yeah, you definitely see a change of tactic at this point, using much more environmental like things to his advantage instead
Yeah.
of just trying to meet the Ork head on.
Yeah.
Which is kind of his style always seemed to be like quick thinking, outmaneuvering, and then big slaughter.
Yeah.
Is kind of how it felt he was. He would just maneuver his enemy in such a perfect way that he could just rain death with his guns. But now he's it seems like he's trying to think outside the box, which this is probably the only good thing that I see coming out of his like months of solitude in this battle suit is that I guess his perspective on battle shifted a little bit. So yeah, I guess that's
That's a
that's
thing.
one tick in the pro column for disappearing to the bottom of the ocean.
Several
Try it
months.
sometime. But
You just. Where did he shit?
In the battle suit,
Of course.
which then was recycled,
And then he ate.
yeah.
Sustenance. Okay.
No, his group of followers just like dropped food down. They knew where he was, so they just pinged little food and just dropped for him. That's my guess anyway.
Good to know. So after 4 decisive victories across many planets, Farsight finally managed to trap the wily Iron Teeth and even defeated him in single combat. With Iron Teeth dead, the Tau hoped the rest of the Ork army would scatter, but it would take them 10 more long years to scour the Ork threat from the world. So it was already a decades long. Ooh, that's a long time.
It was a
Another
huge
10
Ork
years.
threat. It doesn't help that the Tau can't quickly maneuver like the Imperium can.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, even just going from planet to planet, it's an ordeal. So
Yeah. But even like Ork threats are just insidious. You know, they never leave unless you like fully
Exterminatus.
scour.
yeah.
It's like the only way to fully remove.
Yeah,
an
we
orc
were
threat.
we were talking about that of how can you actually get rid of an Ork threat without burning everything? And we're saying, could you change the atmosphere so they can't grow? Like if you just terraformed a little bit to be slightly colder, or you remove certain levels of oxygen or whatever, can they just not grow in that planet?
there
So-
has to be a pesticide called
gonna
Ork Be Gone.
yeah, there
you
must
spray?
be something out there that can actually effectively remove Ork spore.
Yeah.
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 They make like a fungicide bomb and
Yeah.
Ork be gone.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Just a little
exactly.
spray
So
can.
spray, yeah.
Everyone
Exactly.
has.
it's like off and they're spraying it.
Every
on themselves.
Marine's got one on his like his equipment
Oh,
belt.
that's
Just
what those are. I thought they were grenades, but they're Ork Be Gone.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like if you go hiking in the mountain, you bring bear spray, but all people on these planets just carry orc
Orc spray.
gun. Yeah. Just make sure you have your orc spray with you. So that's we've gone through T'ar Evo at this point and his like wretched failure there, and then the siege of the Enclaves where he kind of turned it around.
Yeah.
And he picked himself back up and he said,
He
"Look,
just needed a vacation. He just needed a several-month vacation at the bottom of the ocean.
yeah, I'm not convinced something crazy didn't happen at the bottom of the ocean, but I'm gonna save it
He fell in love with a fisherman.
with himself."
Oh.
Oh.
He learned to love himself first. No, but we'll get into that later. But it's kind of at this point that he regains confidence, maybe not in the greater good, but definitely in himself. And so he's kind of picking up the reins back now, and he's at the head of the Farsight Expedition again.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go to kind of the defining moment for Farsight.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a pretty famous moment. I think most people, especially if you have touched Tau before, you definitely know this moment. But I think even a lot of people who would still understand that there's something happened with Farsight, and this is it. So
Arthas Moloch.
yeah. So one such planet that Commander Farsight led his expedition to was Arthas Moloch, where they arrived to scour the Ork presence. And what they found would change Farsight forever.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, dun.
As the Tau battled the Orcs on the planet, a disk of varying light rose from an 8-pillared temple called the Great Star Dais by the Aircast. The disk eventually erupted, spewing forth multitudes of demons that destroyed the orcs around them, and then began to round on the Tau. Now there's millions of orcs on this planet, so the orcs and Tau are fighting like this massive battle.
Yeah.
Apparently, and it just these beings appeared that no one understood how they were materializing, and they just began to shred and mutate things with warp energy and warp flame, and
Yeah.
it just, I don't know, it threw them for a loop.
Yeah.
So they when you're reading this, they kind of describe it as in the Tau have no idea what they're facing.
Yeah. Like, this is their first encounter
yeah.
with demons, for
Yeah,
sure.
they definitely don't call them demons.
Yeah.
They don't describe them as warp beings or anything. They just say that, creatures came and just materialized. So
Yeah.
I think what they're trying to do is they're definitely trying to show that the Tau have no comprehension and no understanding of the warp,
For sure.
of chaos, and of this, mirror dimension that exists.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's like a big thing because it really messed with Farsight.
Yeah.
Like,
The new
Not again.
Where's the nearest ocean?
I need a break.
Right.
Yeah.
This new threat horrified Farsight beyond words. The Tau had now seen the horrors of the Empyrean, and resoundingly they called for a retreat. Farsight collapsed from the strain of staring into the rend in reality that the disc had caused, and when he awoke, the Tau were using the distraction caused by the orcs to evacuate the planet. Farsight halted this, claiming that the new threat must be ended immediately.
One of the coolest things I think from this thing is him collapsing from staring into the warp.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
needs to happen way more often.
Sure.
Just people losing their mind staring into a rend in reality. How did 3/4 of his forces not instantly turn into a mess
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to comprehend chaos in the warp?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like that. That's one of the cool things I picture is like a bunch of Tau just dropping from the strain of trying to understand the
Seizure
chaos.
and you couldn't comprehend it.
No, yeah, it's supposed to kill people trying to stare into the warp.
And no one's giving them like good warp analogies, like it's an ocean to calm them.
yeah,
They don't know.
to soothe their
Yeah,
frayed nerves.
They
you
don't know.
You should jump into it.
It's just like the ocean back home. I promise. It's the exact same. Yeah. Oh man. So, yeah. Did you say that he stopped the evacuation?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he wakes up and then he decides, wait a second, guys. No, we have to fight. Fight.
Yeah, he likes taking out threats for sure. He sees a threat and he'll try to take it out.
Yeah. And I think he's good enough to do it personally. I prefer the Farsight that is able to handle any situation.
Yeah.
That can quickly assess a foe,
Yeah.
come up with the best strategy, and then execute it with his warriors that are extremely loyal and fanatically faithful.
Yeah.
Rather than
And
the
him.
emo phase Farsight.
Yeah, I don't. It just doesn't seem to fit this character. But again, you should read the book. So
Adapt and overcome seems to be his thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely like that better for sure.
The Tau would take heavy casualties, most notably their two final Ethereals, Unlos and Undiem. At this, mass panic broke amongst the Tau ranks, and Farsight struggled to keep his army together. He commanded the 3 active battle groups to himself and begun his counterattack.
Yeah, so there's a whole thing in here, but effectively in the end, it's only through the use of medallions
Yeah,
scattered around this 8-pillared temple
sure.
that they survived. So he commands them to bring these medallions to him that for some reason he knew to gather.
Yeah.
And then he also knew that don't spill any blood on the dais because blood being spilled makes the demons more powerful. And
Yeah.
he got his flamer crisis suits or whatever to burn the blood and dry it so the demons would lose power. And
Yeah.
anyways, it just
The only thing
there
I
was
can
a lot
think
of coincidence.
the only thing I can think of is when he stared into the warp, he had some type of understanding.
Do you think so? I refuse to acknowledge that he got understanding from staring into the warp.
like maybe
How did his mind not explode? He's not a psych. Anyways. Yeah, for some reason, he got the medallions.
Yeah.
And then when all the medallions were brought to him, he combined them and touched them to the sword that he found
Yeah.
on there. And then when he did that, there's just an energy burst. The rift collapses, and all the demons disappeared.
It's magic. It's space magic. It's nice.
It's warp power.
Warp fuckery.
But the big thing to take away from all that is Farsight acquired what he called the Dawn Blade. and it is a weapon that flickers with unknown energy. And when Farsight swings it, it's sharp enough to cut through rock. It cuts a swath easily through most enemies and armored vehicles. And the big thing is, unknown to its wielder, the blade is made from chronophagic alloys,
I hate that.
which add a slain foe's remaining natural lifespan to that of its owner. So it essentially eats souls and gives it to Farsight. So this is the secret to Farsight's remarkable longevity, which has spanned over 3 centuries and allowed him to become such a powerful figure.
So, was this on a Tau world? You're saying?
Arthas
No.
Malik
Yeah.
is
It was a dead
it's
world.
supposed to be a dead world, I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the Aircast did have a name for that 8-pillared temple. They called it the Great Star Dais.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think there's reason to believe that the Tau, even if they weren't on this world, they had been there before. Especially maybe the fleet, if the Aircast had a name for it.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think it was populated.
No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah.
No.
But I feel like this place, if ever there was a place to learn about chaos and the warp, it would have been in that temple, you know?
Yeah, like
If
very
they-
clearly-
If they had studied it, maybe some of the writings or maybe, yeah. I feel like that could have been their introduction, but instead they just dealt with demons. So,
That'll happen. Yeah. But yeah, so he pretty much picks up a demon sword. We don't know. I don't think it's ever outright stated that that's what it is. They always just describe it as like an alien artifact. But
Wait, what do you mean? Who describes it as an alien artifact? The Tau? Or
yeah,
the
like
Imperium?
codex information, like yeah, just whenever you read about what it is just is described as an alien artifact.
I definitely think the Tau don't know, but I think if any Imperium Psyker comes into contact with him,
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
yeah. In universe, sure.
But I
Someone might
I
know.
don't know if it's a demon blade or not. I don't know if there's a demon trapped in there, or it might just be like a weapon of the warp.
Yeah. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's tough.
I think it's a demon sword.
You
that,
do? Do you think there's something in there?
Yeah, that eats souls and gives it to.
That's why I dislike that they say it's made from chronophagic alloy. Like that in and of itself, isn't that supposed to be their way of like, ooh, it's the alloy itself that's taking souls? Like,
Yeah.
why didn't they just? And if it's unknown to him, that means who knows it's chronophagic?
Yeah.
You know, like who's doing studies on this that is understanding it's chronophagic and then not telling Farsight, right?
Yeah.
That just it never made sense to me that there need to describe what it's made of when it just means nothing to the story. It just
Sure.
it seems like Star Trek shenanigans to me.
Sure.
Like
Just putting words in there to make it sound fancy.
yeah, but when
that's
Sci-fi
why
jargon.
yeah, but when you think about it, it just I don't know. Maybe someone has a reason out there why they needed to call it chronophagic alloy, but
Apparently in Greek it means time eating.
yeah, like phagic has to do with bacteria as well. And chrono, I don't know, I just assumed it like stole bacterium life and like took that time and gave it back or whatever. But it just like if it's a chronophagic alloy, does that mean we can't just make more in our realm?
Sure,
Is it
sure.
warp related at all at that point? If it's just
Sure.
an alloy that we can create and manipulate? So I just would have preferred that they left it more of a warp blade
Yeah.
than a material.
Well, it still could have been
Item.
because like it was found on this random temple. He had to put a bunch of medallions into it. So maybe this was like the last of this metal, this chronophagic metal.
Very possible.
There's, like,
yeah.
A lot.
Would you
missing.
prefer it be a demon sword?
I don't know. I don't know if I think it has to be a demon sword. I do think Farsight's being manipulated.
by the sword?
Not necessarily by the sword. I like to think, okay, well, I'm going to read one more sentence,
'Kay.
and then I'm willing to talk about Farsight's manipulation.
More.
That's, he gets the Dawn Blade, he closes the rift, the Ethereals are dead at this point, so he's got nothing left, and the orcs are gone.
Yeah.
And it's at this point he's at a turning point. Either he goes back, because protocol dictates that if as soon as like a fire cast thing is without ethereal, they have to go back and get more.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He rebels. So following the battle, he should have gone back to the Empire, but instead he pushes onwards and he attempts to find the answers that had been denied him in the Tau Empire. He eventually founded his own empire called the Farsight Enclaves across the Damocles Gulf, where he continues to lead his Tau.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the Tau, the Farsight Enclaves, but this is a decent time for me to talk, I think, for us to talk about Farsight himself for a heartbeat. So,
Sure.
When he stared into the warp, he found, I guess he did gain some understanding, because something clicked for him and he realized that the Ethereals had some sort of knowledge of this that they denied him.
Sure.
And that, I think, was the final straw for him, that there was this entire threat that, how is he supposed to protect the Tau Empire and perform these miraculous deeds if they won't even tell him what he has to fight against, and then they won't even give him the resources necessary to fight against it?
Yeah.
I think he kind of understood that the Tau Ethereals cared more about what they could share back home than they actually did about the individuals fighting for their propaganda.
Sure.
And I think that was a big decision for him, is he's like, no, you're just trash and I can't trust you. You won't tell me what I need to know in order to effectively fight. So I think that in the ocean, when he's meditating, and probably when I read it, this will change drastically. But I like to think that in that moment of solitude, something began to whisper at him. And I like to think that he's been manipulated since that time to go to Arthas Malik, and if he needed to gain knowledge of medallions and swords and blood upon daises, if ever there was a time for something to come to him, it would have been when he's in the ocean. So I like to think that something approached him in the ocean, led him to Arthas Malik. He felt the need to go there, forced him to, so he witnesses this rend, and he knows the only way, or he finds the only way to break it, which is to pick up this sword and combine these medallions with it. And then he's carrying this sword now for 300 years. So maybe it's not a demon sword itself, but it feels like he was manipulated to wield the sword. And I don't mind that aspect of it. So I like the thought that, there's something manipulating him out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you think it's evil, like a chaos god or something?
Maybe not a chaos god. I don't know.
But a demon
starting
of
to-
some
Sure,
kind,
yeah.
perhaps.
Some kind of warp entity.
Yeah.
It could even just be like a Tzeentch greater demon or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it could be a chaos god, could just be a warp entity in my mind. But it doesn't seem characteristic of him. And that's why I like to think of an outside influence.
Something's kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes. It's not just him
Yeah.
going and doing these things just cause.
Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't seem, they don't seem characteristic of him unless I try and think of, okay, maybe something is giving him information. And I have another thing that I'll talk about after a little bit in this when we finish the whole Farsight Enclaves thing. But I do like to think that it wasn't just him, and that he had some weird understanding that was given to him by something else.
And
It's just, it seems like too much coincidence.
And this applies to his rebellion as well, right?
Well, yeah, it would be.
He's already
directly
pretty
linked.
strong-willed and kind of an independent thinker as it is, but you're thinking this being might be kind of pushing him more toward rebelling than his natural tendencies already would be.
I think that the Tau Empire thrives on control and secrets.
Absolutely.
And as soon as someone like Farsight gains knowledge beyond what the Ethereals deem as acceptable, everything they built starts to crumble. And this entire facade that they share, that no, we can conquer the galaxy, and there is a place for everyone in the greater good, and we can beat any threat that comes against us because we're pure, and I think that the Ethereals, well, they're doing their best to hide the reality of the warp from everyone.
That or they themselves don't know.
They do know.
Do they?
They do.
Do they?
I'm fully convinced that they understand it. Fully.
On what? Based
Because
off what?
there's races in their I guess we'll do it right now. There's races in their auxiliaries that are fully psychic races,
Oh, yeah.
and there's no way those races have not touched chaos or the primordial truth or have an understanding of warp energy can be. And
Sure.
there's no way the Ethereals haven't talked with them about that.
But if the Ethereals themselves haven't seen the warp or been affected by it, and then these creatures are just like, yeah, I can use psychic powers.
Yeah, it's like talking
Can
to
they?
some weird
Can they
hippie uncle.
Yeah.
Like it's like,
Would
oh,
they-
okay, Greg,
Yeah.
you sure can,
Yeah,
bud.
Yeah, but
doing that.
what happens when they start showing you that they can do psychic powers and that there is something beyond your understanding, and they share, look, these are our stories. This is the things that have happened. Here's what happens when we go too far into manipulating warp energy. Here's the warning. Like, there's a reason that they don't have warp travel. I truly think there's a reason that no one in the Tau Empire knows about the warp. They wouldn't tell Farsight about the warp. It is described in the book
Yeah.
that he realized they were hiding it from him. And if they're hiding it, it's for a reason. And I
Sure.
think it's because they realize they can't deal with it.
It could be that the Ethereals know it exists. They've seen how it works through those auxiliary races, but they just can't comprehend it themselves. So that
Yeah.
they have no way to describe it to others, but they know it's there, and
Yeah.
maybe that's what Farsight is thinking. It's like, well, they know about this, but why haven't they told me?
Yeah. Yeah, how much do they know? Like, Ethereals only know 1%, but Farsight thinks they know 50% of all warp knowledge. Like,
Well, there's a difference between, like, hey, here's how the warp works versus here's a threat you might come into at some point, and you're not going to be able to comprehend it because we don't, but you might have to fight it. Like,
Sure.
Why didn't they say anything? And I think they're just hiding it. Yeah.
sure.
There's no reason to not tell your best commanders out there that there's a possibility they're going to fight this.
Yeah. Another thing I think is maybe they have witnessed the warp and they can see what it does and how it can affect people, and that goes directly against the greater good in the way that the warp can change you into an evil thing like chaos and stuff like that. So they don't want to share this immense power that could render the greater good pretty much null and void.
Like, I'm
so
with
they
you
don't
on
want
that.
warp travel to screw with their armies and stuff.
Yeah.
So they're not telling anyone
Yeah.
else about it.
So it's like, oh, we just can't do that. I don't know what that power is that they're teleporting around with.
Yeah, like I'm definitely there for that. Like I'm more on the side that the Ethereals are withholding information. Like, either if it's lack of understanding, that's fine, or if it's fear that it doesn't fit with their philosophy of the greater good, that's fine. If it's fear that they it will corrupt, like, the knowledge, and the knowledge does corrupt, we know that, right? So if there's a fear of corruption within their own people, like, I'm okay. There's no way they don't know, but there's whatever their reason is for hiding it. Like, Farsight was just 100% betrayed in the fact that the knowledge wasn't shared with him.
Yeah.
Like, even an inkling of that knowledge might have helped him a little bit in this battle.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Just an understanding that they're beings, that there's things beyond that don't follow our physics.
Yeah.
You
Even
know?
if he didn't know he was going to be fighting these demons,
To be
at least
prepared for
know
it.
about them
Yeah.
can let him prepare for it in the event that he would.
Even
Yeah.
just mentally,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
they lost their minds when they encountered these demons. But if there had been, like, hey, it's possible that you're going to encounter something that is beyond your knowledge, and I don't know, it just, maybe not to the soldiers, but to Farsight himself, it just, and he feels the same way.
Yeah, yeah.
He really does. He feels fully betrayed by it. And I think it's also mentioned that those Ethereals didn't look as shocked as he was. And I think that was, like, his final
They
straw.
weren't brought to their knees.
Yeah, they didn't seem to, and it could be just that the Ethereals are just in a breed their own, right? And, you know, they're so steadfast that they,
Yeah.
you know, they aren't affected the
They
same.
have to
But
save face.
yeah, it could just be that they are just too solid. You know, their belief in the greater good is too pure. But he definitely took it as they
Knew it
had
was
some
coming.
knowledge
Yeah.
of it prior to. So
Sure. My big issue is I just find you always attribute malice to it. Like, they withheld. It's like, I don't know. I don't tell you everything about everything.
Well,
Like, I
it's,
don't know.
it's in the same way.
It's just every time we talk about Tau, you just always go to there's malice. There's twistedness, and it's like
No. I don't think it's malice. Like, the Emperor also withhold knowledge of the warp, not through malice, because he knew that humanity wasn't ready.
And
Yeah.
the webway.
Yeah, and he wanted to
big
have
secret
the
project,
he
right?
wanted to have the webway. But anyways, like when I talk about the Emperor doing it, it's not a malice thing. And when I talk about the Ethereals doing it, it's not a malice thing. But to Farsight, it was.
yeah.
To him, he felt betrayed by it, right? So the Emperor didn't want to talk about chaos,
Yeah.
but Magnus was a psyker. Malkador was a psyker. The Emperor was a psyker. They had all their Primaris psychers on the battlefield, and all the Space Marines had psyker things. So it's not that they didn't know the warp. Like, they knew the warp, and they go through Geller fields, and they have the Astronomicon, right?
Yeah.
But he was hiding the knowledge of chaos.
Yeah, the actual four gods. Like,
Yeah, but why wouldn't the Ethereals wouldn't even tell them about the warp? Farsight knew nothing about this extraordinary power that he could have come into contact with. You can learn about the warp without coming into contact with chaos if you want.
Sure.
I don't know. It just... And I'm not necessarily saying it's malice, but it definitely maliciously affected them.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so whether or not they were evilly hiding it, or whether they're doing it because they think it's the right thing to do...
Protecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still... They hid knowledge. They knew about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the right or the wrong thing to do, but
You could look at it, like you're saying, on either side of it, whether it was a malicious or a benevolent reason for hiding it. Farsight just took it as
he
malicious
did.
act.
Yeah.
he felt betrayed. But those feelings of betrayal had also been building up this entire expedition,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We've talked about that.
With his kind of
This was
growing
the turning,
discontent with the Ethereals and the Empire not supporting him or
Yeah.
giving him the things he needs.
this pushed him
to-
over the edge.
Yeah.
Do what they're asking of him.
Yeah.
So what do you boys think of the Dawnblade? Would you like it to be like a demon sword, or do you like kind of more of the technological aspect of it where it's just a crazy metal? What do you guys kind of think?
I
What do you
think a little bit of both. I think it'd be cool if it was like this crazy metal that's no longer found anywhere or
But
something
had
like that.
some sort of
Yeah, but
connection
maybe-
to the warp
Yeah,
and
like
chaos.
possessed kind of from something in the warp, something that is feeding him, and maybe he could be the Farsight Enclaves could be their connection to the warp, the Tau, because they don't, other than the Ethereals, you think, don't really know about the warp, but maybe this being separate they could start working on some warp technology or studying this if it is connected to the warp. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Because they kind of get shunned and no one's allowed to talk about them anymore. And if they found out about the warp, what would the rest of Tau civilization do about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not to the extent of like Fulgrim's demon sword, or
Sure. Yeah.
I can't remember his
Yeah.
name, but there's a Grey Knight captain who has a demon sword that he always has to
Castellan Crow.
hold.
Yeah.
Yeah, him. Maybe not to that extent, but I wouldn't mind if there was like a bit of a demon presence within the sword that's kind of manipulating him,
Yeah.
along with whatever presence possibly came to him in the ocean.
It's kind of just headcanon for me.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just, those things are just so uncharacteristic of him.
Mm-hmm.
I have to rationalize it somehow. And the easiest rationalization is always just, it's just a demon from the forest. You know?
Demon.
Just a simple
So if there was some
demon.
kind of
Voices in the
demon
head.
presence in the sword that continued that manipulation of him and pushing him away from the Empire, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. No, I'm okay one way or the other. In the end, Farsight is not my favorite. He's definitely my favorite Tau,
Yeah.
for sure.
His mini's pretty sick.
Yeah, I just like anyone who's willing to
And the
throw
8 is
off
a pretty cool
Mm-hmm.
unit.
their bonds of slavery to the greater good.
Here we go.
Anyways,
Oh my god. Oh my god.
So I have another question.
Yeah.
Is he just constantly going out on expeditions to keep feeding his souls, or is
I don't think he
like,
understands.
Okay,
He
but
just
like
kills something and he just keeps living, but he doesn't
Okay.
really know
But,
that
like,
that's what it's doing.
he's
Yeah.
not like sitting on his world now and like just staying there and like the Emperor gets psychers every day. They're like, hey, come see.
They just
come
bring
meet
people
the
for him to
Farsight.
kill.
Yeah.
Well, so it's described as the slain foe's remaining natural lifespan to that of its owner.
So he's fighting
like,
a warrior
really, like, if
who
he
has
even-
60 years left. He just kills one of them.
Yeah.
And that's so much
So
time.
he's already got
he could have
who knows
thousands
how
of
many
years
years
backed up.
left kind of banked on that sword.
Even if you just killed a
Exactly.
couple orcs that were left
Exactly.
over. Then,
Yeah.
The weird
So-
thing to me is that no one seems to question it.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
if a Tau life expectancy is anywhere from like 60 to 80 years or whatever it is,
Yeah.
he's described as drastically living beyond
Like
what's possible.
300 something almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how is no one being like, hey man, it's your 300th birthday and that's a little weird.
So with the Tau, they do have tons of different life expanding technologies. Like even when we start talking about his 8,
Yeah.
there's some in there that have like nanobots that like heal them fully, or
And like Aunva is crazy old.
yeah, like so they.
But he's an Ethereal.
He's dead.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah, so I think it would be
But
very
he
easy to
was.
just
He
be
wa-
like,
he was.
oh, I've taken some type of experimental technology.
I was
Like,
wondering that.
I think it would just be so easy to say that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Because you're right. There's one of his 8 members that developed these like nano drones that extended his
Yeah.
life. And what if Farsight was also? I always thought it was odd that it wasn't described that that guy gave it to everyone.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah. We'll get into that.
Yeah. But anyways,
Tau. But
there
yeah,
must,
like,
there must be another way that he's doing that he is attributing his long life to.
yeah. Another thing people always were assuming too was that it was a title and that they
Passing
passed
the
it
name
on.
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
And
seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's
Like
what
they
the
passed the suit and the sword and the
Yeah.
title.
Yeah,
that's
down
what the
to
Tau
Newfall.
Empire definitely
yeah,
believes.
exactly. But they have confirmed now that
It's
it
really
is.
him.
The same guy.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think there are ways, especially when you include like nanobots and other crazy type of like maybe it's a clone. Tau do have cloning capabilities. You know, I think you could easily just pass it off as like, well, okay, something's going on.
Yeah, but
I don't
he-
think you need to be
yeah.
like, oh, that sword is eating souls.
Well,
like,
he has to
holy-
be convinced that there's some other thing that's keeping him alive. He has to be doing something
Sure.
that he thinks is keeping him alive as opposed to the sword.
Sure.
Or maybe that voice that he heard in the ocean's talking to him now.
I mean,
Because is it confirmed at all that he does or doesn't know that the sword
Yeah.
expands?
I don't
his
think he
lifespan?
knows.
Yeah, when you read in like codexes or lexicanum and stuff, he doesn't know. But in the novel,
I'm going to read it.
It's ambiguous.
I don't know. I haven't read the novel. I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, I'm going to read it.
Yeah, so it could be, but as far as I'm aware, like it's always described in everything I've read
That
that
he
he
doesn't
does
know.
not know
Okay.
himself. So yeah, maybe it's just apple a day type of guy.
Yeah.
A nano
Soul-
drone a
soul
day.
a day.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we can get back into him a little. Let's talk about the Farsight Enclave. So, the Farsight.
oh,
Sorry, just a mini stroke.
pass my retard on to you. Now
So
I am pure.
let's talk about the Farsight Enclaves. So this is the second Tau empire that Farsight founds outside the purview of the Ethereals.
Yeah. So when this was originally founded, the Tau were unaware, like the Tau Empire, like they thought that the Farsight Expedition
Had been destroyed.
It's only many years later that they actually find out that, you know, Farsight has gone and created his own mini empire. So the Farsight Enclave, also known as the Forbidden Zone to the Tau Empire, has become an independent empire consisting of half a dozen planets, including some human colonies. There is an ethos in the Enclaves to be individually strong and determined. The most numerous caste is the Fire Caste, and they're also the leaders. There are no Ethereals in the Enclave, so that's the big thing. We'll talk a little bit more about like how the castes kind of interact with each other, but right now we're going to the planets. So the very first planet, the capital world of the Enclaves, is Valoros. Valoros.
Viorlos?
Viorlos.
Yeah.
It's like the Viorla sept as well.
Yeah. Home to more fire warriors and even some primary Tau steps. It is a volcanic world whose main asset is the amount of geothermic energy that the Earth cast has managed to harness from its raging core. So there's theories, like in codexes and stuff, that they think that part of the reason why this this planet has like this raging core is because of the Dawnblade and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's not just like that's not just me saying that. That's like you can actually read that in codexes and stuff.
So it's reacting, its presence there causes
Yeah, like
its core to...
Yeah, like they don't have a lot of information.
Sure.
I should have written down
It's just
the
like one
exact
of those like
wording.
one line offs.
Yeah.
So would that imply then there possibly is a strong demon presence within the sword?
Or something.
Yeah,
Or
who knows?
something with the sword just doesn't
something's
agree with the
happening.
planet?
Yeah.
So, and that's an odd thing because that's kind of meta knowledge.
Yeah, I think that is meta knowledge. I don't think the Tau think that that's why the core is.
For sure. Yeah.
I should almost just try to pull up the exact wording if you guys want to keep reading.
Sure. So the next planet is Lubgral. I don't know if you have a slide for that one.
So if you're watching right now for $2 on Patreon, this is this is Valoros.
Oh, okay, so the top
This
left.
this is the next one.
Oh, that makes sense. That's like it's like a volcano planet. It's
Yeah.
covered in like fissures.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
it just
We
goes
did
over.
skip the meaning of Viorlos.
Oh, sorry.
It means Sons of Viorla, which is the Tau Sep world that many of Farsight and many of his warriors are from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one we have, which is in the top right there on the screen, is Lubgral. It's primarily a memorial world to all the Tau who have died in service of the Enclaves, and their polar ice caps are scattered with millions of clean, oval monuments to the dead. So it's kind of just like a graveyard planet, I guess. Yeah. Not a terrible way.
So the surface of the planet is like a monument, but then the Earth cast is most numerous on this planet, and we're cutting edge technology is being produced, but they actually dig deep tunnels into the planet, and they have like this huge elaborate like tunnel network with like homes and whatever.
So the surface is kind of just dedicated to these memorials.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
But it's all
Entire
underground.
planet. That's crazy. And then the next we have is Tinekla. So that would be the bottom left, Mark?
Bottom left, yeah.
Okay, so Tinekla is a world whose thin crust was harvested, revealing a crystalline, shimmering polygonal below. The planet is a giant mineral structure so close to true transparency that it seems to glow with starlight. And the aircast who reside there live in floating hab pods and orbitals above its surface. So they mined away its crust?
Yeah, like there's like a super thin layer, and then when they took it away, it turned into this. This some weird naturally, like it was probably just like space dust that they just brushed away, and this is like some, I don't know, imploded star or something. I don't fucking know.
Space science.
Yeah, but yeah. So it almost looks like a D20 or something like that. Maybe not quite that many sides, but it's definitely like
Sure, yeah, it definitely has that feeling
Yeah.
of like a dice.
Yeah.
It's a D100.
Ooh. And then yeah, they just have a bunch of space stations that orbit it that kind of carry that same shape.
Huh. I wonder, like, so it's a crystal,
Yeah.
and the aircast who live there, do they live on the planet? I don't understand that.
No. They live in floating hab pods.
So it's just like other things that are floating around the planet.
You
Yeah.
feel like little satellites. in
Yeah,
the
it's
space
almost like that they're
stations.
just using it as like a gravity well to hold a
Yeah.
bunch of different satellites.
Yeah.
Is the crystal useful for their technology?
Yeah, I
at
was
all?
wondering that too.
They don't say anything. But yeah, maybe they are mining it. But
Experimenting with it, maybe.
yeah. But
Seems
yeah,
pretty
they,
cool.
they don't say.
You don't see a lot of that in 40K actually, like weird shaped planets
Sure.
like that.
The
I don't
next
know.
one too is also
Yeah.
very different.
I was staring at the picture trying
like
to
a booger.
understand.
Like a booger.
So the last one we have is on the bottom right of the screen, and it's Salashe. So it's less of a planet, more of a collection of giant moon-sized globes of liquid.
Yeah.
Salashe orbits the nearby sun as a group. And if you're looking, you can kind of see that there's like one big orb and then a bunch of orbs that look like they're touching it, but
Yeah.
still retaining their orbness.
So weird.
It's like oil on water.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of what it is. Yeah, like those balls that just like retain their shape but still like touch each other and interesting. So each time a meteor passes into one of the spheres, the liquid parts into smaller groups of globes, and each time the forces of the void throw one or more globes together, they meld with a burst of meniscus that sets the skies alight with multicolored spectacles. What?
Delicious.
How it's just constantly in flux and
Yeah.
splitting
Yeah.
and
This
spilling
is
back
a-
together.
This is a planet. Yep.
What's the liquid? You know, like
All types. It takes all types of liquids to make a globular liquid.
just nice mercury,
Yeah.
just solid mercury planet.
So within this world, the water caste of Farsight's collective meditate on the fluid nature of the oceanic clouds, and that can teach them about the universe and the races within it,
That's how-
and how we can all.
How poetic.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty nice. You got to have a planet for that.
It's in that picture. It looks like there is still a solid form surrounded by liquid.
Yeah.
Is that described as the case?
Well, if it
Or
like,
is it all
splits
liquid?
Up, I'd assume there's no solid in there.
Yeah.
Else it would just explode when a meteor hits it. I hope this rejoining of fancy lights isn't explosive.
That-
Well, there
That's
goes
so
I
crazy.
think there is something inside
You
of
think
it.
it's just like a
Um,
floating, like anywhere they live is just a floating station, and then you wake up in the middle of the night, and that floating station, which was previously on one planet, is now on a different
Yeah.
bubble of the planet.
There has to be like a core to it to hold all the stuff there. They also say within this world, so I don't know.
They live like under the surface. So.
Yeah, and it's just like imagine Earth if there's 4 miles of water on it. I don't know.
Yeah, but
And then-
capable of separating and then joining back together.
Low gravity, like
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah,
enough.
me neither. Me neither.
You're not an astrophysicist?
I'm working on it. Give me another couple months and I'll
Weeks,
be there.
yeah.
Weeks. Yeah.
You're almost there.
Yeah. And then the final planet that they really mention in any detail is Gruvessa Rid, which is a human-populated world that has joined the Enclaves. So they don't tell anything else about it. They don't tell you what it's like or if it's only humans on the planet or if Tower kind of there too. But it's definitely a part of the Empire.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Did you find your line?
No.
Okay. Well, that kind of just goes over the planets that are within the Farsight Enclave. So pretty tiny. Even smaller than the small Tau Empire.
Yeah.
you know? Super making a big deal. Big splash.
When reading, there's this one amazing fucking line. So the Farsight Enclaves have half a dozen planets, and there's some Inquisitors that are worried that Farsight himself is a direct threat to the Emperor. It's like,
It must be a demon blade then.
Just what a joke.
yeah, it's like literally even if like
If
Even if the-
every single person capable of fighting in the Farsight Enclaves were to go against the Imperium, a single chapter of Space Marines can deal with them.
yeah, for real.
Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like let alone
But
how
a
the fuck
direct
would they
threat.
get to fucking Terra? They
yeah,
can't even
how many generations would that take them? They're so far away.
Oh.
You just have to be stopping at every world like a Tyranid and slaughtering people.
Yeah.
And he would make it just himself.
Yeah, he's the only one who
Pull up
survives.
himself, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Him
yeah,
and
it's-
him and his AI companion.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about the rulers of the Enclave now.
Ooh, also called the Eight.
Yep. Currently, the Enclaves is ruled by the 8 with Farsight at their head. So there is 8, including Farsight. So Commander Farsight, we've talked about him quite a bit now. He's the leader. His next person is Commander Bravestorm, and he's entombed in a life support system and confined inside a battlesuit. Bravestorm has served alongside Farsight without question, even at one point taking a Vindicator assassin's bullet intended for Farsight.
is that what put him in the
I don't
battle suit?
I don't think that is. I don't think so.
So it's very much a dreadnought, like
Yeah.
from Imperial understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of crazy. When I was reading it, I didn't see any indication of potential mental deterioration or
Yeah.
putting him in stasis to keep him fresh.
He hasn't been that old yet.
Yeah. I also just wonder if the Tau Tech ability to do that is just better. Like, they have true AI,
Sure.
so they're capable. I don't know, it just seems like their technological understanding is definitely better than the Imperium.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So one of these guys is in life support, so he's going to be around forever, pretty
yeah,
much.
until his actual body, brain stem, whatever gets destroyed,
Yeah.
he's good.
Then we have Honor Shasvir Ovessa. Ovessa was an old colleague and supporter of Farsight and gained infamy during the Arkunasha War. After the Damocles Crusade, he joined with Farsight directly. Ovessa is known as Stone Dragon. He is, in fact, not a Shasvir at all, but an old Earth-caste colleague of Farsight kept alive by micro-drones of his own invention. So,
So he's just as old as Farsight,
yeah.
but nobody ever mentions him.
No.
You know?
And yeah, and just like him, like there's a couple of these heroes. So Farsight being super old, it's like, well, okay, like a couple of these guys have this technology.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's
That's why the reason they don't look into the Dawnblade, I think, is
Yeah.
like Farsight's convinced he's alive because of some other reason.
yeah.
If
He
wasn't
could be taking those nano drones too, for
exactly,
all we know. Like,
yeah. If he wasn't taking the micro drones and he's not, sniffing the dust of eternal life or whatever, then he'd have to look into whatever it was that's keeping him alive. He just seems too, like, grounded to just blow it off.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like if it
Yeah.
was real, he's gonna search into it for some reason.
yeah, especially since that's part of the reason why he left the Tau Empire. Is like he wanted to go find more out. He wanted to find answers for himself.
He wanted to find what was being hidden from him.
Yeah. So Commander Brightsword, one of you guys want to read this one?
Sure. Commander Brightsword is actually a family name more than a personal name. There have been 7 different Brightswords so far that have sided with Farsight. It is rumored that all these Brightswords are actually...
Wait for it.
Wait for it. Oh.
Clones. They're all
Legend.
clones.
Wait for it. Dairy.
So they're all the same person.
Yeah. Yeah. So Tau do have cloning.
They also have the ability to digitize consciousness and memories. Do you think
Yeah.
it's the same person inhabiting this body over and over again?
There's different
Clone 'em and
clones,
put a
but it's
chip.
the same consciousness.
Yeah, it's the same memories, the same being, same experiences inhabiting, and he's just like replacing his body like a sleeve.
Well, if they have the technology, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
The
Like-
neurochips.
Yeah. So the next one, Commander Shavastus, the first Tau to be fitted with the PureTide neurochip, which is literally what we're saying. This PureTide, his brain is put into this neurochip and then put in other people. So he was the first to be fitted with it and was saved from his oh no, not this word again. Lobotomy by the intervention of Commander Farsight. So the very first chip didn't really work and they were going to lobotomize him, but he saved him. His prototype neurochip suffered rapid degeneration after the battle. However, Farsight had him spirited away in a stasis pod until he could find a cure. Many decades later, Ovessa, that's that Earth-cast guy,
Yeah.
was able to recalibrate the neurochip and awaken the old warrior. So yeah, between cloning and being able to put your brain into
chip.
chips, like
Yeah, how does everyone not live forever in the Tau Empire?
everyone should be immortal.
Yeah.
Like, because it's not like these things are like resource heavy, like making fucking micro drones that keep you alive forever. How much really goes into that? Like, how many resources? How much time? Probably not a whole lot.
Yeah, once you like find the technology
Yeah.
itself, once you create it, like duplicating it
Shouldn't be a big deal.
yeah.
Now, was this a recent discovery in the Farsight Enclaves, or did he have this before?
The micro drones?
Yeah.
Well, he's had
Yes.
it since Arkunasha,
Yeah, so he
so that's part of the like
That's
Tau
when
Empire.
they were still talking
Yeah.
to the Tau.
Yeah. Well, okay, maybe I don't.
Like, he's had to have had it for at least 240 years now.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah. It's
because
just
this is 300 years old. Tau only lived to like 60-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So he's had to have it for at least
yeah.
a long time. Yeah. Next up, we got Shasvir Ob Lotaya 9-0.
Oh, this is the broadside the broadside battle suit known as Ob Lotai 9-0 is crewed not by a Tau, but by a late generation AI engram of the original Ob Lotai, who taught the young Farsight the basics of piloting a battle suit. So this just sounds like a consciousness was digitized,
Yeah.
and instead of putting this chip into an organic
Another
body,
person.
Yeah.
they just put it into a mechanical battle suit.
Oh, yeah. I got some rants brewing at the end of this episode. Commander Ericon.
Aragorn?
Nope.
Sorry.
Akon.
That's right.
Ericon. Akon. He possesses an analytical mind and the advanced new support system from the recently arrived Vision of Unshi.
What's Vision of Unshi?
I think that's what they call like the hologram Unshi. Unshi? Oh, nope, never mind. That's Unva. I don't know.
I'm gonna do a quick search. while
Maybe
you
I
go.
typed that wrong, but I thought, yeah, you had some like advanced new support system.
That's okay. Keep going.
Yeah. Subcommander Torchstar. Torchstar is the youngest member of the group and a defector from the Tau Empire. She is known as an impetuous Valoran whose affinity with fire has seen her immolate hundreds of Tau forces. So this is the only one.
Oh, of the Tau's
Foes.
foes.
Oh, yes. Either
Immolated
one.
our
Yeah.
own people.
She's the only one without some weird life extending technology or something funky with her
Is she
going
just
on.
a newer one, or like?
Yeah. So that's the 8. It's pretty cool. You can actually feel all of them on tabletop.
They are a Lord of War.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one giant fucking unit. Cause they're in a bunch of different battle suits. Like some are Riptide, some are broadsides.
Outside
Yeah,
crisis suits, Farsight.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. So life in the Enclaves. Life in the Enclaves is very similar to life in the Empire. However, one major difference is we do have some examples of cross-caste contamination. So we do have some examples of Earth caste becoming Fire Warriors or whatever,
The ability to change class. Or
Yeah.
Or would this
mate
refer
with the
to
other
mating
class?
with the other class?
It could be all of this. We don't know exactly how it all works. But who knows? Like, we do have some examples. So how prominent it is, or maybe it's just these one-off examples, it's hard to say.
Yeah, but there are examples of
There
it.
are examples, for sure. What we do know is that their society is very militaristic, even more so than regular Tau. Like, I think everyone's trying to support the military. Like, Earthcasts are just creating new weapons and stuff. Like, it's all very much focused for survival and being able to defend yourself. Their technology is mostly old edition stuff, obviously from Farsight Expedition, but I have some... Oh, but there have been some innovations witnessed.
Yeah, so a lot of their technology is stuck at the level of when they initially left the
Yeah.
Empire. But they have, like, in the times that the Tau Empire has seen them, they have seen things that previously were, not there
didn't
before.
have.
So they are innovating.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going slower than the Tau Empire itself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And they have also stolen the Riptide was invented after the Tau or after Farsight left, but they do have that now. So whether a spy went and got the plans to make it, or however a defector brought it.
Well,
who knows?
they've skirmished a couple times
Sure.
with them, so if they just found one of those suits,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
take it back.
Yeah, it's even possible
There's
that-
a couple different ways that they could have accessed it.
But yeah, honestly, there's not a lot of info on how the day-to-day in the Enclaves actually work. Are everyone happy there? We don't really know.
It doesn't sound
No.
like he runs it the same way as the Ethereals, though. The Ethereals brook very little questioning or doubt in the greater good.
Yeah.
Whereas Farsight, like his entire character now is built around the need to question and
Sure.
examine things. So I wouldn't be surprised if his whole thing was built around, like find the answer. If there's
Yeah.
something wrong, like explore that avenue. And
Yeah.
whereas like he might say that to a Firecast person who's
Yeah.
like wondering, oh, I found this weird worm. What is it?
Yeah.
And he says like an Ethereal might tell him like leave that for the Earthcast. You know,
Yeah.
that's not your thing.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Farsight Enclaves, it's more, follow what it is that drives you.
So-
Yeah.
to help propel this.
Yeah,
new-
exactly. He's more willing to let people kind of
bit more
live their
freedom.
own life.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I get from it.
Yeah,
for
I was
sure.
kind of thinking the same thing with his kind of rebellion against the Ethereals and their absolute power. I think he would kind of just by default not want to run it the same way,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
did mention it is very militaristic, and with him being a commander, it makes you wonder if there would be some kind of strict, like, societies run like a military unit. But then again, as before, he kind of is more toward the side of freedom.
Yeah. 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 And there's examples of him taking like young people and taking them into his inner circle, like, but in Ethereal that would never happen. And like I'm sure
Or just even the fact of having an inner circle.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stretched
Being able to
beyond
share.
a single cast,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Knowledge is probably disseminated much better
Yeah.
through and
way
and
more
orders.
open,
Yeah.
way more willing to share stuff.
I definitely view it much like a better version of the Tau Empire, personally.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just too small to mean anything.
4 planets.
It's just too small to mean anything, you know?
Yeah.
So.
For now.
Just you wait another.
Give it
Wait
7,000
for that
years.
demon blade.
Yeah.
And
Slay
then,
the
and then,
Emperor
and then
and they'll
Farsight's
be
coming for
there.
the Emperor.
Direct threat.
Direct.
Oh man.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to talk about with the Enclaves? Are you guys Farsight fans?
I think he's pretty neat and pretty neat story. I haven't read the book either, but like I've watched YouTube videos and
Yeah.
listened to some podcasts about him. But yeah, I had something, but I lost it.
Oh no. It's gone.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I can't remember. So, anyone else?
Yeah, I didn't know too much about Farsight beforehand, and then just kind of like within like the last couple weeks or so, just kind of reading about him on different like different websites and
Yeah.
listening to like podcasts and watching videos about him and stuff. I think he's definitely kind of quickly becoming one of my favorite Tau.
He's very cool.
He's definitely
yeah.
a very cool character. His
Yeah.
story is interesting,
Yeah.
and it's just, I don't know, I like the idea of kind of him doing his own thing against like the Ethereals, because
Yeah.
they aren't giving him any support whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing with Farsight too. Is he's against the Ethereals. He still believes in the greater good.
Yeah, he's not against his own race and like
Yeah.
their kind of beliefs. He's against
The control of
the
the
control of the
Ethereals.
Ethereals.
Yeah. But yeah, like he still has a water cast, and like even the way they describe the water cast on the one planet, like they're still more than willing to like respect other races and like be fluid and try to negotiate and
I
stuff.
mean, they
And-
even do have that human planet.
yeah,
in there.
exactly. Like they still definitely follow the greater good, just that
Not the
Ethereals.
Ethereals.
Yeah.
Which is I wonder. Okay, so the greater good was brought by the Ethereals.
Yeah.
And they use it as, well, no, they believe in it as well. They believe that like everything belongs in its place within the greater good, within the Tau Empire. Everything has a place. If you
Yeah.
don't, it means you shouldn't exist, really.
Yeah.
But I wonder how he can differentiate the greater good outside and say that the Ethereals have no place in the greater good. Like what? So there's no Ethereals there, because if there were,
Yeah.
they would automatically attempt to assume control of this Farsight Enclaves.
Sure.
So in the Ethereals' interpretation of the greater good, they stand at the top.
Yeah.
So I wonder how much the greater good has changed for him to no longer be about a strict hierarchy of authority led by the Ethereals, and now it is an open book where everyone should be involved in the greater good if we're working together, but
Yeah.
you should also have the freedom to do whatever drives you and answer the questions you need. So
Yeah.
it's the greater good, but I think it's altered. It
I-
can't exist in the same form.
I think it's almost expanded with all of his new knowledge. Like, the greater good was everyone has their place. Even these other races and stuff, they can all join and they can do their job. But with Farsight, it's more free. So yes, there's a greater good. Everyone has their place, but it isn't determined by the Ethereals. You're not just a firecaster.
You can
If
determine your
think-
own place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ah.
so
I think
instead
it's
of
kind of
here's your
expanded
place,
a bit.
make your place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of always saw it as like a very hierarchical, kind of utilitarian sort of system where you do what you're supposed to do and you do it for everyone. You do your job,
Yeah.
and everyone does their own job, and it works.
Yeah.
But Farsight is expanding on that to make it much freer. It's like you
Yeah.
don't have to just do your job. Like there's the Earthcast guy in the 8 who pilots a suit and
Yeah.
fights with the Firecast. Like
Yeah.
you can do your job and it kind of expand into other jobs as well, depending on what
If you have a
drives you or
drive
what
for
you're
something
good
else
at. Yeah.
that you
That-
could be better at,
Yeah.
go do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing too about Tau, like the casts are very different. Like I got this picture pulled up here. Like
Mhm. Even biologically different.
that's the
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. Like and
Oh, I love how mean that fire warrior looks. He just looks so big, you know?
yeah. So like fire warriors are still naturally going to tend to be fire warriors and stuff. Like earth casts, they probably have a slightly bigger brain. They can actually understand stuff better. Like who
Yeah,
knows?
there's genetic predispositions
Ex-
within each of them.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's not like every person is like now following their own path.
But if they want to,
But if they want to,
they have
yeah.
the freedom to
Like
do
you likely
that.
won't see an aircast become a fire warrior just
No.
because well, not only are they so like
Spindleman.
spindly, but their
Yeah.
bones themselves are,
Yeah.
I believe, hollow
Yeah.
Yeah.
to kind of help their
Yeah.
space flight.
Yeah. But hey, who knows? Maybe if he wanted to.
I
could.
have said
Freedom
before
to-
that like the greater good as it exists in the Tau Empire seems naive, and it seems like it's not taking into an account like it works great
What's
on a
truly out
really
in the
small
galaxy.
scale,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? But as soon as you start adding in like actual truth from the galaxy, then it falls apart very quickly, in my opinion. So Farsight might just be like the next iteration of the greater good, one that has come to terms with the fact that they're in a galaxy that has these unknown things that don't fit in the greater good. Like demons don't
demon
fit
and chaos,
in
I
the
was
greater good.
Orcs
Yeah.
don't fit. Tyranids don't
Yeah,
fit.
but and there's no like you could find an orc that fits in the greater good. You really could. There
I guess
are
in theory you
freebooters.
could. Yeah, freebooters.
And there are anomalies within the orc race. Like a single orc could potentially find his way into the greater good. But you're right. A Tyranid, no Tyranid is ever going to join the greater good, right?
And there are lots of like weird fucking aliens out there that you could say that to. Like
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that he's kind of understanding that there are things that don't fit with their understanding because they're trying to apply this greater good philosophy to the entirety of the galaxy and say no, it's you're either like with us or against us or whatever. But
Yeah.
he's saying there's things that just don't fall into these categories. So.
Yeah.
It's not just black and white.
Yeah, he's there. There's varying shades, and if there are, then we can be varying shades, and we can have the body of a fire cast, but the mind of an earth cast.
Sure.
That perspective or whatever. So
Yeah.
he seems much more fluid in his understanding
Yeah.
of life.
Well, that's
really.
because he went to the water planet.
That's
and
right. Yeah,
Meditated on the fluidity
in the
of-
bottom of the ocean,
Yes.
found wisdom that day.
So this is pretty far off, but you're saying an orc could possibly believe in the greater good, and orcs. I'm not a big orc person, but they like shed spores and clone pretty much. Or do they clone, or is that orc then have its own thoughts, and he could not believe in the greater good, and they'd just be
Yeah.
Smack
It-
it.
I don't
And
think
then
they're
it's
not close.
are an actual all over
Yeah.
again.
They just grow like asexually.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
Yeah. So, but
They're mushrooms.
I
Yeah.
do like. I think orcs can be like we have the beast. He was a philosopher, so we know they're capable
Yep.
of like very complicated like thoughts more than humans.
Yep.
Like if orcs elevate themselves enough. So
But even if they're not like super thoughtful, like what if you just kept paying Orc and Teeth to be a fire warrior, essentially?
So that's how, like, are Kroot part of the greater good?
No,
Or
no,
they
they're
just, so
mercenaries.
that's how I would view that orc then. It's just a merc.
Yeah, sure.
So not necessarily I think being a part of the greater good means you have to accept the philosophy of the greater
Fair
good.
enough.
Yeah, like
Sure,
you could be part of the Tau Empire,
Yes,
but
as an
not
auxiliary.
necessarily within the greater good.
Yeah.
But I do
like
think
the Kroot and Vespids. and
yeah,
all
I
that.
do think an orc could technically
Yeah.
believe in the greater good. So yeah. I'm not saying it's likely.
No,
but in
I'm
an
with you.
untold galaxy.
I'm with you.
You know, there's one orc out there who's just dying to find his
Find
place.
this.
I mean, there has to be trillions of them. There's got to be at least one.
Exactly. There's
It's
just,
just
one,
numbers.
One little orc out there.
Yeah.
No, he's a big orc.
Could even be a
actually.
Gretchen.
I was gonna say it's one of the little ass guys.
Yeah. Oh man.
Just need to find one.
All it takes is the one.
So I got some rants building after reading all the technology that the 8 have.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
There's just so much fucking bullshit. It's crazy.
It doesn't make sense.
Like,
yeah.
okay, so you can put AI into battle suits and have them work perfectly 100% tip top.
Yeah.
They can keep pace. Why the fuck do you have fire warriors?
Yeah. What need do you have of putting your people on the line of battle when
If you
can just
put AI
yeah,
systems
you can
in.
just attach AI to guns. Why would you ever need anything other than that?
Yeah.
Well, you guys talked about this a bit earlier, like with their drones, they have the AI in it, right? And
Yeah.
it gets stronger the more drones that are around. It could be a thing of the drones will run away if they calculate that this battle is going to be a loss.
Yeah.
Whereas a fire warrior might be like, no, I was sent here by the Ethereals to fight
Sure.
and save this.
My counter to that is the AI, like specifically
not an-
Shasveer
It's
or
not an
Blotty.
AI. It's a copy of a body.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It is, yeah.
Because
So
I
it's an
agree with
actual
you if they
person.
use like the Tau drone AI. I would agree with you.
They
yeah,
like copied his consciousness
For
and
sure.
inserted
But, like,
it into the suit.
you could literally they fucking copied Pure Tide, the best
Exactly.
military
Yeah.
commander. How is he
Just
not
put that-
piloting every battle suit ever?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you have that
There's
ability.
weird plot holes, and I think that's a huge one. It's just the fact that obviously they can digitize it and they can just duplicate it.
Yeah.
How are they not just filling their battle suits with these things
Yeah.
with tiny little chips as opposed to spending years training warriors on how to do it?
Yeah.
You know?
It's just one of those things where I think like somebody
Little
just
holes.
yeah, some authors just like this would be cool without
Without thinking of
realizing-
the implications
Yeah.
Like,
of
but
what
it-
it means.
So this is what happens every time I do a Tau episode. Tau is my first army I ever collected. Like I used to really like Tau. I still do to some degree. But every time me and Eric plan one of these episodes, I just get angry. Like because we just find
Anger
more-
flows through his body.
yeah, we just find more and more bullshit where we're just like, well, what the fuck is this now? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And at this point, there's so much written, it's impossible to take it all back.
yeah, yeah.
I can't think of a single way to fill every hole that we find.
No,
with
yeah,
Tau.
yeah, running out of ways to justify things.
Yeah.
So.
Gonna name them like, welcome to episode 69, Mark Gets Angry, part 5.
This is a 62-part series.
On explaining the plot holes within the Tau lore.
Yeah.
So
We've gone over like a bunch of like the Tau time shenanigans and like
Yeah.
how none of that
stasis is
fucking-
another huge problem.
yeah, it's
That
just
like Shadow Sun
Yeah, I was
also
gonna say.
trained under Pure Tide
with Farsight.
with Farsight, but she's fought in many battles.
Yeah.
Why are they not just neurochipping her as well?
Yep. Why are they
How,
not?
how is she even alive at this point?
Yeah.
She doesn't have these micro drones.
She doesn't have a sword.
She doesn't have a sword.
Eats souls.
Chronophagic sword. and-
yeah.
How is she alive?
Yeah, there's just stasis for her, but
Yeah.
it takes so much time.
Yeah.
Like, she's definitely been alive for over 50 years.
There's no way she hasn't.
Yeah, like in
Like-
all the times that she's been frozen and unfrozen and
Even to
frozen.
just become a Shas-O, it's gonna take you. There's
Isn't it like
Is it
over
like
20
20
years?
10 years?
25. So for every step or every rank, it takes 5 years to do
Yeah.
your trial of fire, and I think there's 6 different things, and so it's
Yeah, you're not starting when you're 4.
exactly. So
You
she's
know.
already old.
Yeah. It's
Like,
so anyways, that's
yeah.
like the
We've
time is a
talked
big
about this.
one.
yeah,
Like the micro drones, they have the technology to keep people alive. Why
Yeah.
don't they spread that?
yeah. To like
they can clone people and you can digitize your consciousness. So the like I don't know. It's just, how is that technology not widely given? They have so many ways to extend life.
Yeah.
And for some reason, all of them are one-offs.
Yeah.
Now, is it that the Tau Empire itself had these technologies to begin with, or were they developed within the Farsight Enclaves, and that's why no one else has them?
Depends on what technology we're talking about.
Like those nanobots and
yeah,
or
like
the cloning of that one dude.
Yeah,
they're
that
just
seems like
implanting
that's
the consciousness
specifically in
multiple times.
Farsight.
Yeah,
but like the pure tide nanochip, that's definitely
across the Empire.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it
Cloning
depends.
is across the Empire, though.
I don't.
You think only the Enclaves have the ability to clone?
I think only that one guy. I'm trying. Let's read. I don't know if it's across.
Again, a one-off thing that probably doesn't break it down too much.
No, yeah. And it's just like, oh, this guy's like, oh, this would be cool if he's maybe actually a clone. But it's like, that has big ramifications, bud. You can't just write that.
Can't just say that there's clones.
You can't just say that.
It's just
because it's like
we're pretty
clones of
close.
other people.
We're
Yeah.
pretty close to cloning, like in our level of technology. It seems crazy that
I mean,
Haven't
they've done
they
it.
cloned
They've
Dolly
done it
the,
to
sheep,
sheep.
Dolly
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sheep
Sheep.
only lived
Yeah.
for like a couple years, though.
Yeah,
But
We need to
wasn't-
give her
but
a
we
life
were
saving
there.
sword.
But they
like
did
we
it.
can't even
This
space
is the
travel,
beginning.
and we were
Yeah.
beginning to
There's a-
experiment with cloning. Right?
There's it's a long way off before we start cloning
Perfection,
people to
yeah.
like
sure.
acceptable
Sure,
standards.
but we don't have
But,
space
like-
flight yet, even.
Yeah.
But yeah.
right. So,
But the
or
technology
even good
is
stasis.
kind of there.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
So it seems odd to me that, I don't know, it exists somewhere and it isn't immediately accessible to everywhere, because
Yeah.
the Tau Empire is so tiny.
Yeah, like
You know?
Unva, how does he not have a clone?
Yeah, why are they still just using projections for him?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way they don't have his body ready for cloning
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. Anywho,
Or
that's
a
rad.
chip of him too.
Yeah, how did
Yeah.
they not chip him
Yeah,
and put him in an AI?
put him in another.
Put him in a
Or
robot.
put him in the next highest Ethereal.
Yeah, exactly.
Put him
exactly.
in a robot and then stretch that robot over with skin to make like a cyborg.
Ah,
Must outfire him.
hello.
I'm on fire.
Shaving his legs. Yeah, there's the Tau needs a lot of work, and I don't know.
So the next point
That
was,
we kind of already went
Oh,
over
okay,
that.
okay.
Yeah, I brought it up
Well-
earlier.
in that case, what do you guys hate about the Tau?
Nothing. We love them.
we love that.
Close quarters on the tabletop.
That's fun. I love that.
Yeah, that's always fun. Yeah,
It's
we
okay. Farsight killed a war boss before he even had the Dawnblade
Yeah,
in
so-
single combat.
Just gotta play Farsight Enclaves, and then you can run melee
We're
Tau.
doing it all wrong.
Yeah.
No, Mark knows how to run melee
I'm
Tau.
pro at fucking melee Tau.
Breachers.
Breachers.
Terrible.
Was it those photon grenades as well?
They can help, yeah.
Can help.
Yeah.
-1s to hit, so I always forget to throw them, but
And don't
I
they
know they'd be
subtract
good.
from the opponent's charge as well? Or is that a psychic awakening stratagem
think there's
to
a
like
stratagem that
overcharge
you
the
can-
photon grenades?
Yeah, that it's just a
Then it-
regular one. It's not in psychic because I was looking at it when we were playing
Interesting.
and got wrecked.
okay.
But bringing custodies.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's I think the episode.
Yeah, that's the Farsight Expedition. So it's the story of a lone warrior journeying. There's
Into the
betrayal,
I-
love, depression,
I guess the big takeaway.
resurgence, victory, and finally peace.
Aha. Aha. I guess the big takeaway is Ethereals don't have mind control abilities.
Oh, is that your takeaway? That's not my takeaway.
And that it's all just indoctrination. That can be
What's the
broken.
difference between that and mind control? If you mind control someone from birth, it's still mind control. If I indoctrinate you so much that you believe
but-
anything I say, I'm controlling what you think.
Sure, but they don't have an actual like psychic ability to mind control. Because in 300 years, how is an Ethereal not just rocked up and be like, okay, guys, you're back in the
What
Empire
if they just
now.
kill them?
But how do you kill him? He just mind controlled you.
What if you shoot the ship he's coming in from kilometers away?
He just mind
Pew, pew,
controlled.
pew.
I don't know. You could smuggle somebody
There's a
in.
bubble. There's a bubble, right?
Sure.
Around whatever they can do. Anyways, there is apparently a Ethereal on his way to the Enclaves on She. that one.
Oh,
Yeah, I couldn't find what the vision of Anshi was.
interesting.
But Anshi himself is like a pretty famous ethereal, famous for wanting to fight alongside his Firecast.
Yeah, he is a model.
And apparently he's on his way to the Enclaves.
Sure.
I think the mind control, in my perspective, is null and void, because if you look at them when the Enclaves, when they were going out and chasing the orcs,
They had
his
those Ethereals
people,
there.
were
And he said
were
no.
more willing to follow Farsight than these two, or however many Ethereals they had.
Yep.
So I feel like it's the greater good that drives the Tau, and whoever they see,
Embody it. I guess.
embody it is who they'll follow. So when this Ethereal does get to the Enclaves, I don't think he'll magically change half of the Enclave to fight against.
Because they've been loyal to
Enclave.
Farsight for so long.
Yeah. Or even like join the Enclaves and then lead the Enclaves himself. Like I don't think that would happen
No,
either. Like
I don't think Farsight
Well, there's
will let that
I don't think
happen.
there's any room for Ethereals in the Farsight
Yeah.
Enclaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be destroyed at that point. It would just be refolded back
Yeah.
in.
But
Yeah.
and I got into this huge argument with a buddy about that, about Tau mind control. I'm just like, name one example of like that happening, because he was convinced. And
There
you
is
can't
a
do it.
story
Of
it's
this
just a
one
single-
fire warrior
yes,
who kills
exactly.
himself.
Herself.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's
ethereal
mind control.
forces, and she adamantly is like, no, like don't make me do this, don't. And he tells her to do it, and she does.
Yeah, but that could
So.
just be like,
Life
that-
preservation. I don't want to kill myself.
yeah.
But why would you still do it then?
You-
if you're because if everything in you is screaming
no, but
not
if you
to do
believe
it.
in something so much, like fucking suicide cults, like they believe in their leader
Yeah.
so much, like they don't want to fucking kill themselves, but they believe like, well,
you
this
don't think
is-
that's an aspect
gonna
of
be
mind
saved.
control?
It's
So-
like indoctrination again.
That
right?
doesn't
Like,
mean
yeah.
it's not mind
No,
control.
no, 'cause
if you
when
indoctrinate
people
so
say-
heavily,
No, go for it.
if you indoctrinate something so heavily, it kind of blurs the line between like just pure indoctrination or like some kind of telekinetic mind control. Like
That's-
it kind of becomes one and the same.
That's the big word, telekinetic. Like, I don't think the Ethereals have that type of ability. Yes, it is still mind control to indoctrinate somebody from birth. That is definitely mind control. But I think typically when people talk about ethereal mind control, they lean more heavily in that psychic aspect of it.
Yeah. There's definitely things in the galaxy that we don't understand. And anytime we see something that we can't fully explain, we love to attribute warp to it. Because it's
I was
easy.
gonna say, is there more powers than just the warp that would be able to mind control?
Like, things we don't understand? Absolutely. Like, the Necron are capable of things that nobody even thinks is possible. Like, the homunculi covens in, like, Gamora can do things with flesh that are impossible.
Like turn a person into like a ring.
They can
Keep it alive.
They can rewrite
Definitely.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
They can rewrite genetics, right? So if the Ethereals
like-
had some way to manipulate people that wasn't related to the warp, but isn't something that we understand currently, whether it's pure philosophy or whether there is
Pheromones
something
or
biological to it, or even just physics, some understanding of science that they have that allows them to do this. Like, I'm not ruling it out just because there's so much out there. So if they come out at one point and they confirm that it's pure philosophy, then sure, yeah, it's just another form of mind control, in my opinion, just this indoctrination. But it doesn't have to be psychic for me to still be malicious. It's still like I can't. It's hard for me to look at the Ethereals in any light other than some manipulative group of beings, and that is, it's probably going to stay there forever.
We got Farsight
So-
over there.
I know. I'll win you over one day, Eric, to my
When
team.
you support me through my expedition and you bring me the resources I need and the reinforcements, and
Marks
you
the
commit,
Ethereal.
if you commit to killing the Ork Empire of Alsanta, then we'll talk.
Okay. Now I know what it takes.
I think there's a lot out there. It doesn't have to be psychic. Psychic is just the easy explanation.
Yeah.
But like, I think, didn't they like vivisect an ethereal at one point, and it had trouble understanding what it was.
Yeah, and sometimes they think it's pheromones, but then once again, like, how did Farsight say no to the pheromones? I guess they're not overpowering; they just kind of help. But
Yeah, it's one of those weird things because Farsight is a very strong-willed character.
But even his men
yeah,
weren't tipping to them.
I think like it could be a combination as well. It could be that some pheromones just make you easier to suggest things to you, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, if I put on my manly musk, are you more willing to take your shirt off for me now and
Already
let us
done.
dance? See, exactly, right? Like it's easy.
I think the big thing is like you can say no. Like, yeah, it might help, but people have said no to it.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not just
Farsight has said no to it. Is there any example other than Farsight?
everyone in his enclave.
Yeah.
Well, no. Like, they're following his greater good,
Sure.
right? And like,
Sure.
I think even the Ethereals, if they had wanted to, they could have ordered his people to rise up against Farsight. Because, like,
Maybe.
we know his immediate followers were very loyal, but did some weird firecast that has never even met Farsight before, would he also have denied an Ethereal's order? Dude's never met Farsight,
Yeah.
never fought with him, doesn't have any loyalty to Farsight, right? Because at the beginning of the Farsight expedition, they would have gotten a bunch of new people. That single firecast warrior
He's
still would have said yes to an Ethereal before saying yes to Farsight.
he was also portrayed as an amazing Tau commander, and there could be a little bit of like, yeah, we're going to war with the freaking hero Farsight.
Yeah.
There could be a bit of loyalty in that sense and still just by default, but yeah, I don't know if it would be quite
More
to the
than
same extent
Ethereal?
that you're like, you've fought with Farsight for so long, you know him personally,
Yeah.
right?
I think when Farsight said no to the Ethereal, my guess is that happens behind closed doors.
Sure,
I
sure,
do
sure,
not think
sure.
that his disobedience of the Ethereal was proclaimed and
Out in the
advertised, because as soon
Yeah,
as he did
yeah.
that, because that was at the very beginning
Yeah.
of this expedition, and then they would have lost all faith in the Ethereals immediately after that point.
Sure.
But they're there all the way to Arthas Moloch.
Yeah.
So it might have been him and just his crew that were there for him to say no to the
Yeah.
Ethereals. And then the
Yeah.
Ethereals decided, all right, it's better for us to save face and just go along with this Ork thing
Sure.
than proclaim that he has, left
He's a
us.
traitor.
So that doesn't necessarily mean, like, I more definitely see that him and his small group, that tight-knit group, they definitely are on the same page.
Yeah.
But I think it took until all the Ethereals died.
Yeah, I was gonna say when they died,
That's
he
the
had
point.
to
Yeah.
round them all up and
Yeah.
get them back together.
That's the
so
true point where they're willing
Yeah.
to actually step away from it. I don't
Sure.
think the regular soldier could actually have looked at an Ethereal and said no.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll allow it.
You'll allow it. So gracious, Mark. Thank you.
Okay. Well, boys, thanks for joining us. It's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having
Well,
us.
before we end, we're just going to thank our new members of the Imperial Tithe. Our Imperial Tithe
Yeah,
is...
sweet font. What is
Well,
that?
you know what? It's not Comic Sans, so we're doing all right. The Imperial Tithe is what we call our Patreon. If you haven't heard by now, we are recording these videoly.
Yeah, videoly is what we're going
videoly.
with. Yeah.
We videoly
That's how we
record these
advertise
things
it.
and release them to our Patreon members. So if you want to check that out, just go to our Patreon. It's just search for Lorehammer. It's pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
You can't miss it.
But even if you don't want to watch videos, still go support us.
Yeah.
Takes time and effort to do this. And if you've listened this far,
Yeah, if you're 120 episodes in,
throw us a buck.
Yeah. So I'm just going to list all the people that are on our Patreon. So we have thanks to Eric, Sasha, Shadowblade, Severin, Joshua, Bjorvald, I don't know. It's a weird
I think
not.
that's like a TH sound. It's like,
Thorvalder?
Yeah.
All right, I accept. Mark, Andreas, Brad, Fate94, Thomas, Wanders and Gets Lost, Steven, Richie, Wojcik, I don't know. Thank you to that person. Alec, Keldon, Vika, Dan, Coulter, Alexander, Hans, Nick, Dovathor, Ruben, Dovathor again? That's a double. That's no good. Chris, T-Buck, and Sean. So thank you to all our new subscribers to our Patreon. We very much appreciate your support.
No, it's crazy. Yeah, fuck. I don't know what to say sometimes about that.
No, it's encouraging to see
It's
people
encouraging.
that people find value enough to spend their money on
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
it's nice.
Even just a buck. Even a buck means
Well,
more to me.
then what?
That's half a
Then.
Tim Hortons coffee.
Sure.
I get a double.
Yeah,
A buck is more than 50 cents.
exactly.
So
That is true.
It's more than the 0 I have right now. So
yeah.
cool. Thanks,
Well,
everyone.
that was episode 75, the Farsight Expedition. Thanks, Logan Corbin, for joining us. It was awesome to
Yeah,
have
it's
you
fun.
guys
Yeah.
hang out. And I guess we'll see you next week. Or not next week, next episode.
Yeah, on the flippity flop. I think we got Chaos episode coming up next. So excited.
In true fashion, because, Farsight he's a chaos.
Spawn.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect.